Ladies and gentlemen, fight fans all around the world, let's talk boxing. So the last video, if you haven't watched it, it's part one of fights going on between now and the end of this year. Possible fights that are carded. This is according to the boxing schedule by Ring Magazine. And why I'm using Ring Magazine, I'm just using it because you know, I did a search and I showed you guys how to do the search. So you go watch that first video, part one, first before coming to part two, okay? So you can get a better idea of what I'm actually saying and what I'm going through here. Now, Thursday, November the 13th, 2014, in Washington, D.C., we got two really interesting fights. We have a championship fight. Number 2 Ring Magazine's junior bantamweight titleist, who is Quadras. He's going to be defending his title against Sonny Boy Jero. And then Ava Knight. For those people who don't know, Ava Knight, she is the flyweight division. She actually got a championship belt, if I'm not mistaken. Ava Knight is actually a champion in one of those lower divisions, and she is going to be fighting against Cindy Amador. And for those of you who are interested in boxing and actually follow boxing a bit, you're going to know that Ava is pretty good. Okay, I've seen her once or twice. This is not being televised. It's a 10-rounder, so you know. And in Indio, California, on Fox Sport 1, so this actually makes TV, Joseph Diaz is going to be fighting against somebody. He doesn't know who it is yet, and that will be in the junior welterweight division. Let's move on. November 14th, we're going to see on that night there are at least 4 major fights. You got 2 major fights in Pittsburgh. One of them involves Rod Salka. Yes, the infamous Rod Salka versus Danny Garcia. Well, Rod Salka has returned to the lightweight division, where he really does belong, and he's going to be fighting against Monty Mesa Clay, November the 4th. So you guys can go check that out. And in Puerto Rico, there's one fight. The interesting thing about this fight is the guy named Michael Farinas. Michael Farinas, if you do remember, he fought Yuriorkis Gamboa, and he gave him a pretty good run for his money. He actually dropped Gamboa late. This is for the junior lightweight division. And that's basically it. There's another fight in Mexico. Alright. November the 15th, which is the Saturday, we have Vladimir Klitschko fighting against Kubrat Pulev in Germany. As you know, Klitschko has Ring Magazine's titles, IBF, WBO, and WBA titles. The only title he doesn't have is the WBC. Alright, he's the undisputed heavyweight division champion of the world. And in Canada, there's a cruiserweight division fight that is of note. In the Philippines, we're looking at a number of fights. There are actually going to be on that night 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fights in the Philippines. In Dublin, we're going to have, we got some really ridiculous amounts of fights, but the name that you might know is Matthew Macklin. He'll be fighting at that time. And there are 5 fights going on there. In South Africa, there are 3 fights. In Mexico, there are 3 fights. And in France, of all places, there's 1 fight. Alright, so that's really awesome. Then Saturday, November the 22nd, in Macau, China, on HBO pay-per-view now. This is a pay-per-view fight. I would say I don't even understand why Hopkins versus Kovalov is not pay-per-view. That should be a pay-per-view fight, but whatever. We'll have Manny Pacquiao versus Chris Algieri. This is one of those big fights. It's a welterweight division fight for Pacquiao's WBO title at a catchweight. Okay? But we're going to get to see Vasily Lomachenko again. And Lomachenko was legit. He's in the featherweight division, and he'll be defending his title. Jesse Vargas will be fighting as well, and this is going to be a great matchup. Vargas versus DeMarco. That's going to be a good fight. That's going to be a good fight, folks. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And Liu Shiming versus whoever this guy is. I'm sorry, no disrespect, but you know how it is. But Liu Shiming, he's a flyweight, so it should be exciting anyway. Zhu Shiming, sorry, my bad. At the same time that night, you're gonna have 3 fights in Japan. In England, George Groves is going to be fighting. Nathan Cleverly and Tony Bello is going to be fighting. Scott Quigg is going to be fighting. James DeGale is going to be fighting. And guess who DeGale's fighting? DeGale's fighting Periban. If you do remember Periban, he last fought 2 people. He fought a knockdown J. Leon Love. Okay, before J. Leon Love got up and just jabbed the daylights out of him. And then he also fought a nice tough fight against the guy who just recently, the champion who recently just got beaten, Saikyo Bika. So this is a pretty good fight. DeGale versus Periban is going to be a good fight. Let's see who wins that. So yeah, we got some good fights going on in Liverpool, England. And then Italy's got 1 fight. Germany's got another fight. New Zealand's got a fight, and Panama, of course, Panama, where Roberto Duran comes from. There's going to be a good fight. So all of these fights are going to be on the same night with the Macau fights. All right, just fantastic stuff. And then Monday in London, there's going to be 1 fight. Wednesday, there'll be a fight in Tokyo. Friday, there's a fight in Moscow. We're looking at Provodnikov versus Jose Luis Castillo. That'll be November the 28th, junior welterweight division. Castillo is legendary for so many different fights. He has been fighting for so long, and he's still fighting. All right, major fight. Should have been pay-per-view, but it's not. Saturday, November the 29th. You're looking at Terrence Crawford versus Raimundo Beltran. That should be some crazy stuff, okay? And on the undercard, you have Evgeny Gradovich, who some people know who he is. He's a featherweight champion. He's got the IBF title. He'll be defending against Jason Velez. But at the same time, that's in Omaha, Nebraska. But you also got possibly Tyson Fury versus Derek Chisora, okay? And then 3 other fights in London, and you're gonna have 1 fight in Mexico. So all of this stuff is going on. You know what I mean? And it's a women's match here. This is Silva versus Chavez, okay? Silva holds the title. She should be defending. So all of that's gonna happen on Saturday, November the 29th. So I'm just showing you guys how much stuff goes on in boxing, how active boxing is. Yes, there's the big event, but on that same night, there's a whole bunch of other events going on, okay? Saturday, November the 30th, Sunday, sorry, in East London, South Africa, there's going to be 2 fights. Wednesday, December the 3rd, in Australia, there are 4 fights. Daniel Gill, who got knocked out by Triple G, will be heading that card, fighting Jared Fletcher, another guy who is, I think he's from Australia if I'm not mistaken, or he's English. So that should be a good fight. And then in Brooklyn, New York, Saturday, December the 6th, Gabe Rosario, he's going to be actually heading the card for the night. Will be fighting Lemieux. That's going to be a good fight. Lemieux's a good power puncher. He was beaten by the guy who GGG just recently beat, which is Antonio Rubio. Rubio actually knocked him out, but Lemieux, he's got a lot of power and pop in his punch, and Gabe Rosario is going to be fighting him. Then you got another good matchup, Thomas Delorme against Hank Lundy. Henry Lundy is a very, very heavy puncher. Actually, I don't know if this is Hank Lundy. I think this is Henry Lundy, so I may be mistaking the guy. And then James De La Rosa, who beat Angulo recently, is going to be fighting against Hugo Centeno Jr. Alright, but while all of those 3 fights are going on in Brooklyn, you got 2 fights in Montreal. Lucien Brute, he's going to be doing his rebound fight against Volante. Jean Pascal, he'll be fighting against Donovan George. And as if that isn't enough, you got 2 fights in Germany, 3 fights in Tokyo. So all of that stuff's going down in one night, you know. So, you know, some of the stuff is not televised, some of it will be. Then Friday, December the 12th, 2014, and I know I have to probably stop the video, so let me just stop this video and I'll continue on with the next set of videos.